Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we have breaking news coming from Eastern Europe, where a dramatic railway explosion has captured international attention. Reports from multiple verified sources indicate that a Russian freight train carrying more than 1,000 tons of diesel fuel has been destroyed in what appears to be a coordinated act of sabotage allegedly conducted by Ukrainian special units. According to early intelligence leaks, the attack took place overnight on a critical railway line used for transporting fuel and military supplies towards the southern Russian front. Witnesses described a massive fireball lighting up the night sky as the train derailed and several tankers exploded into flames. Local emergency crews rushed to the scene, but the intensity of the fire made it nearly impossible to control for hours. Regional officials have confirmed that several sections of the railway have been completely destroyed, rendering their route inoperable. Satellite images show widespread damage across the track area and smoke columns visible from miles away. Reports suggest that the operation was highly organized. Ukrainian sources have not officially confirmed responsibility, but several military analysts believe this bears the hallmark of recent cross-border strikes aimed at disrupting Russian logistics supply routes. According to initial findings, small explosive devices were placed along a remote section of the railway, likely triggered remotely as the train passed. The detonation flipped multiple tanker cars, rupturing the diesel containers and creating a cascading series of explosions that burned through the night. Temperatures at the site were reportedly so high that steel tank frames melted within minutes. Russian media outlets have attempted to downplay the incident, referring to it as an industrial accident. However, independent footage posted online shows large craters along the tracks consistent with deliberate mining operations. Local residents reported hearing multiple blasts, followed by a shockwave that shattered nearby windows and knocked out power lines for hours. Firefighters and emergency workers have been deployed to contain the spread of the fire and prevent the diesel from contaminating local water sources. Early estimates suggest that more than 1,000 tons of fuel have been lost in the blaze. Environmental experts are now warning that the spill could have serious consequences for the region, contaminating soil and rivers over the coming weeks. This incident marks one of the most significant railway attacks since the start of the conflict and underscores how Ukraine has expanded its operational reach beyond traditional front lines. Analysts note that by targeting railway infrastructure, Ukraine aims to weaken Russia's ability to transport fuel, ammunition and heavy equipment to active battle zones, especially in Donetsk and Crimea. This latest explosion comes amid a series of mysterious fires and derailments across Russia in recent months, many of which Moscow has blamed on foreign sabotage, but few have caused damage on this scale. The strategic value of this strike cannot be overstated. Cutting off fuel deliveries could severely impact vehicle mobility and air operations across several fronts. According to defense experts, this was not a random act but part of a broader campaign designed to stretch Russian logistics thin and force them to divert resources away from active combat zones. Meanwhile, Russian state officials have vowed to rebuild the damaged track and restore transportation within days, but sources familiar with the operation suggest that repairs may take weeks due to the intensity of the damage. Eyewitness videos circulating on social media show bright orange flames engulfing the railway cars while thick black smoke billows high into the sky. One clip shows what appears to be secondary explosions as remaining diesel tanks ignite, creating shockwaves that send debris flying. Emergency vehicles can be seen lined up along the highway attempting to reach their site, but access roads were reportedly blocked by burning wreckage. This operation, if confirmed as Ukrainian, would demonstrate remarkable precision and intelligence gathering capability. Experts believe special units likely received advance information on the train's schedule and cargo, allowing them to time the detonation for maximum disruption. This method mirrors earlier tactics used in previous months when Ukraine targeted military depots, bridges and supply trains deep inside occupied regions, each time denying official responsibility but clearly signaling strategic intent. The psychological impact of these strikes is significant too, as it reinforces the perception that no area, is truly safe behind the front lines for Russia's logistics network, even in territories far from the immediate fighting. Panic reportedly spread among railway operators across nearby provinces, with reports of trains being halted for additional inspections. Security forces have been deployed along major routes to detect and remove potential explosive devices, but experts warn that protecting thousands of kilometers of track is nearly impossible given the scale of Russia's infrastructure. As emergency crews continued working through the night, Russian authorities released a brief statement claiming that no casualties were reported, though several workers suffered minor burns and smoke inhalation. However, independent local channels contradicted that narrative, suggesting that some crew members may still be unaccounted for. The region was quickly placed under restricted access, with journalists and civilians barred from entering the blast site. By morning the fire had largely been contained, but smoldering remains continued to burn well into the next day. Satellite imagery analyzed by independent investigators confirmed that at least 12 tanker cars were completely destroyed, with several more derailed and scorched. The estimated loss in diesel fuel exceeds 1,000 tons, representing a major logistical setback for Russia's military operations in the south. According to analysts, this incident exposes a critical vulnerability within Russia's supply system, which relies heavily on railways to move fuel and heavy cargo across vast distances. Experts suggest that Ukraine's growing success in hitting such targets is not only tactical but also psychological, sending a message to Moscow that every link in its war machinery can be reached. The precision of this attack indicates careful planning, intelligence coordination, and possibly inside information about transport schedules. This aligns with recent statements from Ukrainian defense officials, who emphasize that operations targeting supply chains are essential to reducing the enemy's battlefield capabilities. Since the start of the year, dozens of fuel depots, ammunition warehouses and freight terminals have been struck under mysterious circumstances, none officially claimed but all pointing toward the same strategic objective: weakening the logistics backbone that sustains offensive operations. While Russia struggles to secure its lines, Ukrainian forces continue to leverage both technology and sabotage tactics to erode their opponent's endurance. Analysts note that the railway explosion will likely prompt Russia to divert additional troops and engineering units to protect transport routes, which could in turn reduce frontline strength and slow offensive momentum. Meanwhile, environmental teams are monitoring the aftermath of the blast. The scale of the diesel spill poses serious ecological risks, particularly for nearby rivers and farmland. Officials have begun constructing containment barriers to prevent runoff, though experts warn that cleanup could take months. Residents living within a 5-mile radius have been advised to avoid using local wells until further notice. Video shared online shows volunteers distributing bottled water and face masks as thick clouds of smoke continue drifting across the region. Despite the chaos, some residents expressed quiet relief, believing that the strike may have disrupted fuel shipments intended for continued warfare against Ukraine. Humanitarian organizations have cautioned against optimism, noting that any industrial explosion of this size inevitably harms civilians through pollution and loss of local services. Power lines, water supplies and transportation have all been affected. Regional hospitals reported an influx of patients suffering respiratory distress due to smoke exposure. By mid-afternoon, Russian officials announced that the fire had been extinguished, yet eyewitnesses reported visible flames long after those claims, suggesting that the government sought to downplay the scale of destruction. Analysts interpret this as part of a wider information management effort to maintain public confidence within Russia. However, satellite evidence and on-the-ground footage leave little doubt about the true extent of the damage. Foreign policy observers argue that such incidents could gradually shift the perception of control within Russia, undermining the image of security and stability that authorities attempt to project. Ukraine, on the other hand, continues to remain silent, officially offering no comment beyond generic statements about Resistance Operations Military experts view this silence as strategic, allowing plausible deniability while amplifying psychological pressure. The ongoing pattern of covert strikes indicates a broader campaign of hybrid warfare where direct confrontation is replaced by calculated disruption in logistics, energy and transportation networks. Over the long term, these tactics could wear down Russian operational capacity, forcing them to allocate more resources to defense than offense. Beyond the immediate military implications, this explosion has also sparked renewed international debate about the vulnerability of critical infrastructure during wartime. Nations observing from afar are taking note of how traditional rail and energy systems can become prime targets in modern asymmetric warfare. The lessons extend far beyond this single incident, highlighting the increasing importance of securing fuel supply routes, communication networks and industrial nodes in future conflicts. While governments around the world react to this latest event, markets have also responded. Oil prices saw a brief fluctuation following early reports of the explosion, though stability returned once it became clear the incident would not impact global supply directly. Nonetheless, the symbolism of such a massive fuel loss amid an ongoing conflict has resonated widely, prompting calls for tighter safeguards across transportation sectors. Ukrainian analysts meanwhile describe the explosion as part of a calculated pattern intended to systematically degrade Russian mobility without engaging in open battles. They argue that each successful strike compounds logistical strain, creating cascading effects across fuel distribution depots, truck convoys and frontline operations. As news of the blast spread, social media platforms filled with footage, analysis and speculation. While Russian censors attempted to remove several videos, the material continues to circulate through independent networks viewed millions of times within hours. The digital information war surrounding such incidents is as intense as the physical one, with both sides competing to control narrative and perception. Security experts warn that this contest over truth shapes morale as much as battlefield victories. The longer the public sees evidence of Russian logistical vulnerability, the more difficult it becomes for Moscow to sustain confidence both domestically and among its allies. In the days ahead, investigators will continue assessing the full damage, though few expect transparent reporting given the political stakes. What remains clear is that this railway explosion represents another turning point in a shadow conflict increasingly fought through precision, sabotage and psychological operations. By striking deep behind the front lines, Ukraine has demonstrated not only technical capability but strategic vision, transforming conventional warfare into a complex contest of intelligence, timing and nerve. As the world watches, the images of burning rail cars and scorched fields serve as a stark reminder that modern conflicts are fought not only with missiles and tanks, but with information and disruption in equal measure. The attack underscores how rapidly warfare is evolving, from open confrontation to silent, calculated operations that reshape battlefields without direct engagement. For now, the railway lies in ruins. The smoke has barely cleared and questions remain about how long Russia can sustain its logistics under relentless pressure. One fact, however, is undeniable: this explosion has echoed far beyond the tracks where it occurred, reminding the world that every supply line in this war is a potential target, and every train that rolls across contested ground carries not just fuel but the weight of an entire strategy. And as global leaders react to this latest escalation, one thing becomes certain: the struggle over supply and control will continue to define the course of this conflict long after the fires are gone. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more verified reports and updates as this story continues to develop. Stay tuned for ongoing coverage and detailed analysis from trusted sources around the world.